all fired up and ready to run to a wall.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hi.
Vendula, Rosalie. Looks like we've got a bunch of people rolling in. Amy, remember to record. I always forget to record.
Oh, M's on it.
Okay, all right. We have somebody else in charge. That's good.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, change.
She's also paying attention to the waiting room and letting people in, so we're good.
Awesome.
I think we should just wait 1-ish more minutes.
Yeah. What's up, Greg?
Morning. Good afternoon, I should say.
How's it out there in Clinton, man?
It kind of ebbs and flows, you know. It's kind of coming down steady but lightly right now, and then every once in a while it'll pick back up and come down heavy for a little bit.
Got it.
But you got your team leader, you got your pro coach, you got your DOAS. We're here, man. We're holding down the fort.
Everybody's plugging away, man. I love it.
That's right.
All right. I see we've got about 30 people on the call. We'll give it like 60 more seconds, guys, and then we'll get rolling. How's the waiting room, Amy? Good?
Yeah, it's empty right now.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's kick it off, guys. So welcome, good afternoon. We did just a couple of housekeeping items. So we had to change the time today, but then we found out that we didn't actually have to change the time. So moving forward, it's going to stay at 11 o'clock. We're going to try to stick to that as much as possible. So please update your calendars. And the mastermind is the third Friday of every month, okay, at 11 o'clock now moving forward. So today we're here to talk about multifamily strategy and mastery, and just two more housekeeping items. So the meeting, for those that have not attended before, is intended to be educational, conversational, and to get people into action, okay? If you're joining the call and it's just for sport or for leisure, you're not doing anything to grow your wealth and to better your life. So please jump on, take notes, participate. We do ask whenever possible if you guys can try to turn your cameras on and share wins and success stories. And really the overall theme is it's meant to be interactive, because that's how we're all going to grow and become stronger investors. So regardless of if you bought your first property recently, if you don't own a property, or if you have 15 properties, we still feel that there's value.
Investor Zoom call on Friday.
So, yeah, if anybody else that's not speaking can just go on mute, we would greatly appreciate it. So Amy, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with some questions. Let's see if anybody, and I apologize, Pocono peeps. This is the first mastermind that we put on our calendar. The last couple of Friday masterminds, we had things in our office and I didn't want it to overlap or interfere with that. So I apologize, but moving forward, it will be put on our calendars when we do have the mastermind. But what we do is we first start off with asking some questions. So since the last mastermind, has anybody purchased an investment property or identified an investment property that they are looking to purchase? Like we said, we want it to be interactive. So feel free to unmute yourself.
Or is anybody shopping for deals or have anything under contract?
So this is my first mastermind class. I'm a very new agent with Keller Williams in Clinton, and I am in the process of renovating a property in Hunterdon County that should be going on the market in the next few weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, be sure to pump that out through the office, because obviously
I will. Yep.
we dominate market share out there, so that should be a pretty quick sale for you.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Yeah. So I'll share real quick, guys. I got another property under contract. Believe it or not, it was an MLS deal, and it came up in Bound Brook, and they had a deal that fell apart, and it's pretty distressed. There's a bathroom that's gutted. There's a bunch of shingles and roofing issues. So basically, nobody can really get conventional financing on it. And I only had to go $1,000 over asking price, and I still beat out 13 other offers. And one of the offers the other agent told me was like 20,000 over asking. But because I was able to illustrate my track record and he was comfortable with the private lender that I was using, we were able to tie it up and promise a 3 to 4 week closing. So it's going to be a quick flip. It's probably like a $40,000, $50,000 rehab. And the plan is just get it back on the market within like 6 to 7 weeks and turn a nice profit and then flip that into another multifamily.
Mhm.
So anybody else?
I got one I'll share with you guys.
Sure.
I've had it under contract for I think about a month or so. So this is a multifamily deal, 7 units over in Stroudsburg. And I got the lead from doing some off-market advertising, but the whole deal was contingent on the 7th unit getting approved by the borough zoning hearing thing, because there was like a change of use, all that fun stuff. So this Thursday, we got the approval from zoning. So major hurdle in that one that we crossed. So just contingent on appraisal coming in, and then should close on that. And yeah, that one brings in some good revenue. So I'm excited for that.
Awesome. I'm loving your background there, man. It looks like flight control back there. I love it.
I try.
Yeah.
So your reason to go to
Amy, do you want to share the deal that we're trying to put together in Elizabeth?
Yeah, that's fine, but I think somebody else was trying to talk, but I don't know
Okay,
who
go
it
for
was.
it.
Was that on accident, or
I think it might have been a mute issue.
it might have been on accident? Okay, so yeah, Greg and I are putting together a deal in Bound Brook. It's a property, it's a
Elizabeth.
gentleman, a very nice, sweet, older gentleman that is looking to be able to stay in the property. It's zoned commercial, and then what we're planning on doing is knocking part of the building down and building several additional units. Unfortunately, we went to go look at it last week and it had a fire the day before we went. So we have that hurdle to deal with, but still the guy's very open, and we're in the negotiating process. So we're pretty certain it's gonna come to fruition and it's gonna yield a lot of cash flow per month.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's probably it took us like a week to figure out the creative structure that we wanted to put together.
Yeah.
Like Amy said, the guy's older. He doesn't really have any family in the area, and he doesn't want to be booted out completely. So we're even factoring in giving him one of the apartments back for 5 years at 75% of market rent,
Mm.
and then giving him 10% of the LLC. So I'm still kind of confused how this whole thing's going to work, but you know, if his attorney lets it go through and our attorney can work it out, it's going to be a massive deal. And as soon as we officially tie it up, we'll share the numbers with you guys, but it's an incredible deal. All right, anybody else, guys, before we get rolling?
No?
Okay.
All righty.
Good.
So let's dive in, Greg. Let's talk about the benefits of purchasing multifamily properties. There's several, right? There's a positive cash flow. Obviously, the more units you have, the more money you're eligible to make. The principal down payment of other properties or even that property. And so, Greg, what do you mean by that?
Well, I just mean the principal pay down every month. So let's say if you have a 4-family every month, guys, it was something that took me a few properties in to realize that not only was I making positive cash flow every month, but by my tenants paying the mortgage, essentially, I'm also increasing my net worth every single month by paying down the principal on the property.
Right.
So let's say, for example, if you're making $1,000 cash flow a month, which is pretty easy to obtain if you buy the right property, and then you're also paying down another $800 to $1,200 in principal every month, your net worth is actually growing, not just by $800 to $1,000 in cash flow. You're growing by like $2,000 a month. So then when you stack that into 2, 3, 4, 5 properties eventually, this number just gets massive. And it's really something that can, greatly accelerate your wealth. And then the tax advantages, obviously, that's the third one. And I think that the other thing that probably one of the most important reasons why I love multifamily and why I don't focus on buying single family rental properties is the protection that you get in the event that one of your tenants is delinquent. And I'll just share a real life example on that. So one of my 3 families in New Brunswick, I have one tenant that there's no doubt about it, by the end of this whole thing, when they open the courts back up, either he's going to have to get evicted or he's going to have to voluntarily leave. Because the numbers on the property are so strong, both of the other 2 units more than cover all my expenses in the mortgage. Now, if I had a single family tenant, and I've heard some horror stories about single family landlords right now, they would be writing a check every month to pay for the property. And that gets old.
Very quickly. So we're kind of in that boat right now. Luckily, we have, additional properties, but 2 of our single family properties are not paying us and we can't do anything about it. So
Yeah,
it definitely stinks to be in that situation.
and I shared this, guys, on the last call that we had, but like one of the most important things right now when you're looking at property is you need some kind of written confirmation that the tenants are paying. You need proof. You need proof of 3 to 6 months that they're actually paying, and maybe even a signed letter from the tenant that they are paying and they're on time. Because when I see multifamilies come up now, the first thing that comes to my mind is, why are they dumping the property and are the people actually paying? Because the worst thing that you can do is inherit a property that you think that's going to be positive cash flow, and then all of a sudden, where's the cash? And you find out they haven't been paying.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration when determining if it is the right fit. If you find a property, if you identify something, there's a lot of things that come into play. So the formula to consider would be taxes, insurance, vacancy. If one of the tenants or 2 of the tenants aren't able to pay their rent, does it still make sense? I think we spoke, Greg, about this property, and 20% would be what we were thinking, correct? 20% would be able to be vacant in order for us to make sense with this. Repairs, utilities, financing costs, and property management. Once you get to a building of that capacity and that size, doing it yourself becomes a lot more difficult, especially if it's not in the area that you live in. Finding somebody, a property management company, is definitely what we're going to be looking to do in that situation. I would say anything above, 7 or 8 units, right?
Yeah, depending on what you have going on, I think, in
Right.
personal and professional lives. But for anybody on the call that's selling a ton of houses and has a bunch of other stuff going on, you're definitely going to need somebody to at least keep an eye on the property if it's not going to be you. I found that threshold for stopping to pick up rent and doing some other things was probably around like the 10 to 12 unit mark. And then it was time to get some added leverage. What I just want to tell you guys, because I know we're going to cover a lot here, and I want to open some of this up for questions and stop in between.
Yeah.
But we are going to send out a job aid for this as well to everybody that's on the call, so that you guys can have the bullets and what to look for, criteria, etc. So before we keep going, I just want to stop real quick. Does everybody understand the benefits here and what we just discussed? And does anybody have any questions that they want to interject? And please don't be shy, guys. Like this is the thing about this forum, is the only way that it's going to continue to have success and really make sure that everybody's getting value out of it is if we're sharing and we're interacting, we're asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
So does anything come to mind for anybody?
I have a question.
Sure.
I have 2 single units. One I use as an Airbnb and the other one I use as a year-round. I have a year-round tenant. I bought them at a very good price a few years back, and I could sell them and make a decent profit now. At what point do I sell them and then look for let's say a 2 unit? Or is that something that I just hold on what I have, find what I'm looking for, and then try to keep what I have?
Well, I'll tell you this, okay? And Amy, you're gonna have to enlighten me because I don't know the Pocono market that well, but if it's like what we're dealing with in New Jersey, extreme sellers market, I imagine it's the same for you guys, right?
Yep.
So me personally, if I had a portfolio of all single family rental properties, every one of them would be going on the market right now. So I have only 2 single family property. Well, I have 3, but the one in Florida is an Airbnb. I have 2 single family properties. We're doing some touch ups on one, and that thing is going right on the market, and it's going to get rolled into another property in Florida to Airbnb. I would personally, right? And I'm not telling you what to do or how to run your business, but I think it makes sense to ring the register while the single family demand is out of control right now and flip that into a 2 to 4 family or maybe into another Airbnb. Because the Airbnb, I think, what I found is that there's a lot less risk involved because you have that person's credit card, right? If they don't want to leave, like they have to leave. They have to pay in advance and they have to leave. But if it's just a single family rental property, especially if you have a vacancy turnover, I personally would dump that in a heartbeat. Anybody else? All right, let me add one more thing, okay? If you're not going to dump it and you have equity and the values are up right now, now's a perfect time to also do a cash out refi on it and lock in a lower rate and get $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 and go and buy another property. So I'm doing that on 2 properties right now as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my suggestion for the properties.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Have your money work for you.
And what I would say, like what I'm trying to I don't really need to sell my wife on this anymore. I'm pretty close. But if the stars align and if I lock eyes on the right property to move to, that's another full rehab. I'm selling my own house right now just because I'm going to make a killing and I've only owned it for 2 years.
You're going to regret it, dude.
Amy did the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm living with family.
So anybody else, questions, comments, concerns before we move on?
Greg, I have a question that I'll pose just maybe for the larger group. Can you talk a little bit about financing differences between, that 2 to 4 unit properties versus like 5 and up once you get into commercial? Because it's a totally different world.
Absolutely. So that was one of our next bullet points here. So let's just jump right into basically the 3 options to purchase. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a single family rental property, most of you guys on this call probably know this, you're going to need 20% down. Okay. Plus your closing costs. If it's a 2 to 4 family property, you need 25% down plus your closing costs. What I did to get started, and what I would tell anybody on this call that does not currently own your first property, and if you have a spouse, if the spouse is supportive of this, I 100% would find the fattest 3 or 4 family that I could, take an FHA loan on it, live in 1 unit for a year, as painful as it might be, check the box, put 3.5% down, move out and do it all over again. That is the greatest opportunity I feel for people to get their feet wet in the investment arena. Okay. And the third option is if you find a property like what I do and what we talked about on the last call with the BRRRR strategy, if you find a property that's in need of some love, right? It's in need of some repair, some rehab, etc. Then you use a private lender because then you can get approved for only 10 or 15% down. They're going to give you the rehab money. You renovate the property and then you refinance the property into a conventional loan. And the fourth option is what you just asked about the commercial units. So in my opinion, once you're going to go commercial, right? If you can find something like if you can find a 5 family, for example, you can find a 12 family. So the pain that you're going to experience from going through a commercial loan process from buying a 5-family is the same pain that you're going to have from buying an apartment building. So from 5 families and above, it gets a little bit more stringent with reserve requirements. And a lot of times you're going to need 25 to 30% down. And you're also going to have to show that you have some experience. So that's a different ball game, but it's one that you're going to need once you get to a point of owning 10 or more properties above. Because once you have 10 mortgages, it starts to get harder to get 2 to 4 family properties. So does that help to answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I've kind of crossed into getting into some commercial loans. It's the only thing I would add to that is it can be a little bit more, they don't look at like income as much. And they're a little bit more flexible with like you're looking at your tax returns and what they're going to qualify you for. They actually add expenses back in. So it's a lot more, what I've found in the underwriting process on the commercial loans is that they're a lot more flexible. Like they don't have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines to follow to qualify you. Like they just look at they look at universal income. So if you own multiple businesses, they look at how much money you're bringing in total, and they weigh the credit score a little bit less than they do with like a Fannie loan.
You're right, because especially in the middle of COVID, a lot of the lenders increased the credit score requirements, and they increased the reserve requirements for people buying investment property, and they increased them quite dramatically. So you're absolutely right. Another added benefit, I think, of getting in a commercial multifamily is that you can get 2 to 3 to 4 people together and put your resources in one pot and be able to tackle deals a lot more effectively. So Alex, are you working on multifamilies now? On commercial multifamily?
Yeah, I closed one commercial multifamily loan back in October, and the deal I'd mentioned before, that's another commercial multifamily with a local bank that I'm using. That's pretty easy to work with, honestly. So the other thing with commercial too, that I'll just throw out there is some lenders for commercial multifamily will do 25%. The one I'm working with will do 20% down. And you're always pretty much you're always going to have like a 20-year amortization, which when I first found that out, I was a little like, I don't love it, because obviously that means your monthly payment is higher. But if you look at it from the capital appreciation standpoint, and the equity growth standpoint, your buildings are paid off 10 years sooner. So to me, I just look at it like I can retire 10 years earlier because all my properties are going to have a 20-year AM versus a 30-year AM.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome point. Can you walk everybody through, or just give a quick overview, Alex, of what did the due diligence look like on that? Because you said you bought a 7-family, right?
I bought a 6 and I'm working on a 7.
So what kind of due diligence process are you going through to make sure that the tenants are paying, the condition of the building? How different is that from what you found in like a 2, 3, or 4 family? Is it much different?
I mean, the basics of it aren't, in my opinion. But so for me, on the multifamily stuff, I really try to focus on off-market deals. So I get a list of people that own multifamily for a certain length of time, and then we'll call them and say, hey, I'm looking to add to my portfolio. And I mean, the basics of it is, finding out all the revenue, your rents, and then all your expenses, which Amy sort of talked about earlier, taxes, insurance. I always ask them, what do you pay in insurance? And you just want to get overall look at all the fees. And then the number I always focus on is the cash on cash return. For me personally, that's the most important number. So most people probably heard of like a cap rate, which is, how fast that asset will fully capitalize. You'll get all the money back from the full purchase price. But the cap rate looks at your rate of return on the money you're actually investing into the deal, the cash you're actually investing in the deal. So your down payment plus your closing costs. So I do like that preliminary look. And if I feel like I can, I'll try to make an offer where that cash on cash return is close to 20% as I can get it. Because what that means for me is that I'll get back my down payment and my closing cost in about 5 years. And when you're talking about putting down like, you know, $90,000, $100,000, I want to get that back as soon as possible. I don't want to wait 15 years to get back that money. So if I'm looking at a deal, I first look at it through that lens, like how fast am I going to recuperate my out of pocket expense? And then the second thing I look at is my per door profit, which is I like to see as close to $250 per door as I can get. So I look at that. And then, you know, the other things is, you know, your basic due diligence you would do on any property, a home inspection, you know, and an appraisal. But those two factors right there, the cash on cash being close to 20 and the per door profit being close to 250, those are my two main things. And then I make them an offer and I try to be respectful. But if I feel like we're in that ballpark, I'll go to the next steps.
Okay. And the majority of these that you're finding are off market?
Yeah, for those bigger ones, they are. Yeah. And it's just
So Greg, in PA, you can do a tax search with people who own multiple properties. In New Jersey, you can't do that, unfortunately, in the MLS.
Got it. That's awesome, Alex. And was that your first property that you bought, or did you start smaller?
no, so I actually started with with the house hacking that
Nice.
that you talked about. So like 2 years ago, and I still keep the check stub because I bought a FHA FHA 2 unit. I lived upstairs for like a little bit. And when I talk to people about investing now, I always bring my check stub from when I brought my cashier's check to closing. And the check was for, I want to say like, it was like $4,100 or something like that. And now that I moved out, that's what I make just about per year on that 2-family, like net after paying everything. So,
And that was 2 years ago?
yeah, that was, 2 years ago, 2018, I guess this would be 3 years. But
So Alex, from
yeah.
then to now, how many properties have you purchased? How many units do you have?
Oh, well, so right now, I have 8.
Nice.
And then once that 7-unit closes, that'll be 15.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just by that point, just based on the numbers, by that point, and this is what's cool about the multifamily, like you said, Greg, you have the opportunity, you know, if you have one delinquent tenant, you're still going to make money. Like I try to get the revenues at a place where even if the property is only like 50% occupied,
Mm-hmm.
everything is still covered. And the likelihood of that happening isn't that high. But the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up here, is
No. This is great for the group, Alex, and I'm happy you're on here, man. So no, please
We're
share.
also learning too, Alex. I mean, we're doing
Yeah.
this selfishly because we also want to grow. So
no,
thank
that's
you.
cool. Yeah, no, this has been my passion, honestly, more than like the sales lately. But so the main thing that I'm doing now, like the 6-unit I bought, like I bought that fully occupied, but where the big money's made in this, in my view, is with the forced appreciation game, right? So you have like this property I have right now, for example, I have 6 units. When I bought it, all the rents were a little bit under rented. Older finishes inside, things like that. So my plan was from the beginning, because all the tenants were month to month, which I didn't mind because I knew going in what I wanted to do, which was as they move out, go in with my contractor, do some basic things. I'm not doing total like renovations because the area that the property is in doesn't call for that,
Mhm.
but fresh paint, you know, updating the cabinets, new flooring, and then raising the rents by anywhere between $100 to $200 per month. So then what happens is, because when you start buying these multifamily properties, they're typically appraised based on the income approach, which just looks at, you know, what that ROI is. So on an income property, the more the more revenue that you have, the more that property is worth. They're not just looking at, you know, they're not just looking for sales comps. So in what forced appreciation is when, let's say you have, you know, 6 units and they're all paying $500 a month. You go in and you do some improvements and you raise the rents to $600 a month. Now you're making $600 or more on per month on that property. So now when they appraise that property, it's worth more. And then what you do is you can do a refi, kind of like a BRRRR strategy. You can do a cash out refi, but now you're talking about pulling out, like, you know, if the value goes up by, you know, let's say $50,000, now you can pull 50 grand out, and now boom, there's a down payment on another multifamily. So my wife and I's goal is, like, once we close on this 7-unit, God willing, we'll have enough where our multifamily business will be self-sustainable, so that through forced appreciation, but also through just bringing in rents every month and stowing it away, every year we can buy another one just based off the revenue of our existing portfolio.
That's when it gets really good.
Right.
So, yeah, once you've hit that point and you're on that trajectory where your properties are buying properties,
Yep.
that's where it gets really fun.
Absolutely. And that's the compound effect in real estate investing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So guys, I wanna drive a point home here, okay? Alex started, what, 2 years ago, you said, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
2 years ago, and look what he has going on, okay? And especially for all the realtors that are on the call, which I think we're primarily realtors on the call, unless somebody invited a spouse, but then you're still tied into a realtor. So God bless you. But the point that I want to drive home is, okay, is something that Alex said about his passion here. And he's almost more passionate about this than sales at this point, okay? I'm not telling you to change your passion. The only thing that I want to drive home to you is you have to have a diversified portfolio, okay? Even if you just start now and you set a goal that in the next 3 years, you're going to buy 3 properties, which everybody on this call can easily do. No matter what happens in the future in 5, 10, 15 years from now with Zillow, with the other companies out there, with commission compression, disruption, right? If you take action now, you're going to be in a spot that you're not reliant on your last sign that you put in the ground. And that's the key here, right? And Alex, this is amazing, man. And I appreciate everything you did to share here, because it's very inspiring. And I'll just share this with you guys for anybody that wasn't on the call, last call. But the same strategy that I did, which was 9 or 10 years ago, the same property I bought via FHA, last year I was able to do a cash out refi on it. And I got so much money out on the refi that I bought 2 more properties with it. So don't think as if you have to, oh my God, Alex is buying apartment buildings now, right? And I can't do that, or my spouse will never let me do that. If you just take action and you just buy 1 property, that's the domino that's going to lead to your success. Another point that I just want to make is a strategy that I use. Alex, I don't know if you use it, or Amy, you use it. I don't touch most of the cash flow on the properties. I actually barely touch any of it, right? What I do is I attack the principal, and a lot of months, I make it a habit every year to make 2 or 3 extra payments on top of the loans, so that when it is the height of the market like it is now, and you want to restructure the debt, you've attacked the principal so heavily that you can turn that around and move into another property. Cool. I saw a question or a comment in the chat. Let me just see.
They were
Craig
just all
said,
comments.
yeah, thanks for sharing, Alex. You never have to shut up. Yeah, no, everybody loves this stuff, Alex. So you guys can keep going. And Karen said the Gene Rivers effect. You're absolutely right, Karen. I mean, Gene Rivers is a mentor of mine, and he doesn't even know it. And the first time I heard him speak a few years ago, my mind was blown, because he's so diversified. So let's stop for a second, and questions, comments, insights.
I actually,
ahas.
hi guys.
Freddie.
This is Freddie here. Just have a quick question for Alex, because I'm kind of in the same ball field. I'm investing in 2 families. We currently hold 14 units across my town in Bayonne, and I'm
Nice.
looking to grow into the you know, the 6 units, 8 units, 10 units. So I wanted to find out where is he investing for these larger properties, and what is the cost that he's purchasing them at currently. Alex.
Yeah, so my main area that I'm investing in right now is the Pocono area, Monroe County area. But I'm doing a little bit of marketing too in Northampton, Lehigh, like going in the Lehigh Valley. And honestly, so the 6 unit deal, I got that at for 385, which was, yeah, that was over. When was that? That was, so I started the conversation with that seller back in
Summer.
yeah, in the summertime. And they were motivated to sell. I sent out like a voicemail blast. I use a lot of voicemail blasts. So I sent out a voicemail blast to people that met the criteria I was looking for. They called me back, and they didn't really have a price for it. So that was a little nerve-wracking, because like I walked through the property and I really liked it, but the fear is always like, okay, what if I throw them an offer that they just completely reject? But I stuck to what my principles are. I stuck to what my targets are, and just said, I'm going to make an offer. And I did. And they said, you know what, that's in the ballpark of what we're looking for. So it worked out. The one that I'm working on right now, that one, I won't disclose the price of that, just because there's still a lot of contingencies we're working through. But that one I'm buying in a neighborhood right now that is probably going for about 100,000 per unit, or like 95 per unit. I would say I'm buying it like around like 70,000 per unit.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
And the biggest thing is why I love the off market deals is 2 reasons. Number one, there's no competition. So they don't have, 40 people coming through that weekend to take a look at the property. You're like the one guy. And a lot of times when I'm reaching out to people, they'll be like, you know what? I was just talking to my spouse about possibly selling this. And then it showed up. And you got to think too, like right now with COVID going on, like Greg was talking about, and Amy was talking about, with non-paying tenants, like you have landlords right now. I know for me, I had one tenant in my duplex that was kind of pissing me off. So I was, there's people out there that own these properties that are like, man, do I really want to do this? And so when you're reaching out, there's motivated landlords out there, but no competition. And then the other thing is too, like, they don't have a number that they're not all the time, but most of the time they don't have a number that they like are fully set on there, because they're in the early phases of figuring out if they even want to sell it. So as long as you're presenting an offer based on logic, based on like actual facts and like numbers, they're going to treat that number with respect. And I'm not in the business of lowballing, because like I said, my main thing is when I buy is not really the price I'm buying it at. It's my numbers. It's, am I going to recoup my out-of-pocket expense in that 5-year or less time frame? And am I going to make enough per month where I'm banking like $250 or more per door? And whatever that number is, I'll give them, as long as they're good with it.
Gotcha. Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So to piggyback on what Alex said, yeah, Greg and I did this with the guy in Bound Brook. You want to make it a win-win. And when we presented him with the offer, he was like, wow, this is a lot better than what others have offered us. And he's willing to work with us and move forward now. But yeah, don't look at the immediate, price. Look at what it's going to eventually be with the vision. You want to obviously make sure it's going to appraise, but you don't want to, piss them off and give them a lowball offer and then not have them work with you.
Yeah, and Freddie, I don't think you were on the last call when we talked somewhat about markets, but what I personally, what we're focusing on now is looking at 40 to 50 units and above in the Carolinas, primarily in some parts of Georgia. So I would say, like, especially for a guy like you, it's already got 7 two-family properties. Just because of the tax implications in New Jersey, and people are overpaying for a lot of properties where we are right now. I mean, I'm just going to take the jump, and it's time to go into the big boy, big girl leagues here, and really start knocking down the cash flow. So that's the strategy, and that's the strategy I think to really get to the next level.
Yeah, I was actually considering this year, as these interest rates are so low, to refi and pull out a lot of the money that I originally invested.
Yep.
My cash flow is really well because I buy them really low, and I do have a team that do the renovations.
Nice.
So I'm usually pulling in between 500 to 700 per door. And so that has allowed me to unfortunately, in Hudson County, it's very hard to get that. So I had to now purchase down South Jersey, but I am looking at North Carolina as one of those options, and South Carolina, because I'm hearing a lot of things down there.
Yeah,
I self-manage, so it's a little hard for me to break that core.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. Same boat. And it's really just about broadening your mind to knowing that you can own a 50-unit building. Or like a guy that's in a mastermind that I'm in, he just took down a 92-unit building in Kentucky. And
wow,
the thing is, though, there's no difference between any of these people and you or me or anybody on this call. I have a good friend of mine that he sells a lot of properties in Detroit, and he tells me about the deals on commercial properties that he can get there. But I just don't want to go further towards the cold. I want to go further towards the warm, and I don't want the calls that the boiler that cost $30,000 just broke down in the winter.
Right.
So another one quick thing that just came to my mind that I want to share with you guys also, depending on where you're buying, and I don't know if this applies in PA, Amy, but rent control. So you also need to be cognizant of the town that you're buying in and if there's rent control. So like New Brunswick, for example, if you buy an existing property, you can't raise the rent more than 2.6% every year, and that's highly constrictive. I'm assuming Jersey City in that area probably has the same restrictions, but that's something else to take into consideration, because there's neighboring towns like where I bought in Bound Brook. There's no rent control. There's barely any inspections. You can take somebody from 1,500 to 1,800 if you needed to, but in other towns you can't do that. And also, just so everybody's aware, because I love to see when realtors that only do residential list a 3-family or 4-family. In New Jersey, you need a state. It's called a green card, for lack of a better term, but that's what they call it. You need a 5-year state green card inspection. And if an agent tries to tell you otherwise, they don't know what they're talking about, and it's time to send them like a screenshot from the Department of Community Affairs. So I just wanted to tell you guys that so you're aware of what to look for. So
I have a question.
Else? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I have a question. So you guys, I keep on hearing you guys saying off-market properties. How do you find these? I mean, I know how to find a property on the MLS, but with the off-market, that's kind of a new term.
Sure. Amy, you want to take it?
There's lots of different ways that you can find off-market properties, especially distressed. Right now, just drive around and look at what's not plowed, and then look them up on the tax record and see who the owner is and reach out to them that way. That's what John and I have been doing the past couple of snowstorms. You can also buy lists. So you can, there's third-party companies. If you just Google, I don't know what the term is, like a special, what is it called, Greg? The special skip tracers. Yeah, but yeah, so if you look up skip tracers, you can see who's owned the property for a period of time, how much equity they have in the property, and then you can hire somebody to get their information and reach out to them that way. Mailing.
Yeah.
Just talking to people and letting them know that that's what you're interested in doing if they know of anybody.
Do you guys consider like for sale by owners, people that are potentially off market? I mean, is that considered off market?
It is, but I don't think that you're not going to find many multifamily properties that come up as a for sale by owner. At least I don't see them in Jersey. And it's not something that I focus on because I find that a lot of them are delusional sometimes. So my best piece of advice, especially for anybody that really wants to get serious about this, if you know that come heck or high water in the next 5 years, you're going to have 5 properties or 20 properties or whatever, you've got to put the time in, right? Like I spent countless weekends and evenings and hours driving around, like Amy said, looking for properties that look distressed, building what I call an ugly house list, right? Where I have a list of, let's just say 250 people that are going to get mailed on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. And guys, eventually someone's going to feel pain and they're going to want to sell their property. It's just a matter of, are you going to be in front of them when that pain comes and they need to sell? Another strategy, I mean, something I'm doing is I share with realtors in some areas where I like to buy that if they find something off market, they can represent me and I'll pay them a full commission. I don't care because at the end of the day, I'm getting the major benefit. They're making a commission. Everybody's happy and we can all go on our way. So that's something else you can do.
Mhm.
One other thing I had was to Alex. Alex, you mentioned that the 2 things you look at when you're purchasing a multifamily is cash on cash. It has to be at least 20%. What was the second thing?
Well, just to clarify, XCO, like I try to get as close to 20% as possible. If you have a property that's over 20% cash on cash, just tell me about it before you buy it, and I'll go get it. Because that's a really good deal. But yeah, so I look at that. The other thing is just per door profit, which I try to get around like at least 250 per door. The other thing I was gonna say too, XCO, it's kind of like with your question about for sale by owners. I've tried this before. Like I haven't closed a deal. I don't want to misrepresent like I closed a deal doing this. But if you see people that have a building that they're renting themselves and you see like a for rent sign in the front, you could always call and be like, hey, I saw you have, some apartments for rent. You ever think about selling that place or something like that? You know what I mean? Just as a conversation starter.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can't think of the 2 guys' names. When it comes to me, I'll send it out to you guys when we send out the job aid here. But they were on Bigger Pockets. It's 2 younger guys. They built a 700 or 800 unit portfolio by just calling leasing offices, getting the owner information, or showing up at the leasing office saying, I want to speak to the owner. I want to know if they want to sell the property. And that's how they built the 700 or 800 unit portfolio. So another thing that I want to say, and then we're going to go to a question in the chat, is when you guys are buying, make sure it's an area that you are comfortable buying in and that you're comfortable going there in the middle of the night if something happened, right? Like right now, I'm refinancing one of my properties and I'm waiting for the temperature to spike next week because I have to get somebody to go and paint gang signs off the building. So just make sure that you're buying in an area where you're comfortable, and that's the very important point. Because if you're going to be self-managing and renting the property yourself, you never know who's going to show up off your ad that you put. So just be cognizant of that. Let's see.
Hey,
Greg,
Greg.
yes.
Hi, this is Della.
Hi, Della.
A question for a follow-up question to Alex's 250 per door, and then Freddie saying he's getting 500 to 700 per door. Is there a formula for us to determine what is the best, what our rates of, I guess ROI or what we can get per door would be a good investment? Do you understand my question?
I'll share with you what I do, and then I'll go to Alex or Amy. But what I do is just very, very quick. In order for me to know if something's like a screaming deal, right? Let's say if a property is $300,000, okay? And they're bringing in $3,000 a month in rent. It's like the times 10 multiplier rule, right? I know that that's a screaming deal no matter what. If it's a $500,000 property, it's bringing in $5,000 a month. It's a screaming deal. when you look at the MLS and you look to see what a lot of these people are charging right now, which is just outrageous in most markets, you'll find deals that people are selling now, like in the New Brunswick area, for example, where I look a lot, that it'll be a $450,000 property and it only brings in $3,200 a month in rent. I can't make money on that. But when you see something that's so much of a differential, before you even go into like plugging it in spreadsheets, etc., I find that's like a very easy down and dirty way to know if you might have a deal. Does that make sense, Della?
Yes.
Okay, Alex, can you add anything on that?
Yeah, so for me, how do I say this? Like, for me, it's just a matter of like, there's like an analysis part of it, and there's also like a common sense part of it. So for me, I look at, if I'm going to take out, let's say $300,000 worth of debt that I'm going to be responsible for every month, am I going to do that to make like $200 a month, like put $200 total in my pocket? Probably
No.
not.
No.
Right. Like that's not a good investment. So I that's probably not the best answer, but a lot of it is just like common sense. Like, okay, like if I'm gonna take out this kind of debt and have this sort of obligation each month, like what amount would make sense for me to get back? And so I just did a lot of like reading and deep diving on Bigger Pockets, on other places like that. And most investors that have much bigger portfolios than me, they all seem to be comfortable with that $200 to $250. So, and the way to calculate that is just simply, you go through, like we said earlier, your revenue minus your expenses. And then once you factor that out, you want to calculate what is your annual debt service going to be. So the way that I look at it, and I was taught this back in a class I took like 5 years ago, like annualize out all your expenses. Look at your expenses from an annual perspective, your annual taxes, not your monthly taxes, your annual insurance bill, annualize everything. And then what I do after I have all the expenses subtracted out, that's my NOI, that's my net operating income. Then I take my mortgage calculator out and I look at, okay, I'm buying this property for X, I'm putting 20% down, my interest rate is Y. Here's my payment. Now I include the taxes in the expenses. So the payment I put down is just it's just a PI payment. It's a principal and interest payment because I'm already accounting for the taxes and the insurance on the annualized expenses. So that's my debt service, the principal and interest on the loan. So let's say that's $1,000 a month. I times that out by 12. So now my annual debt service is $12,000. When I calculate that out, that's my net income on the property. My NOI minus my debt service is my net income, or my actual profit. So then what I do is I just divide that by 12. That's what I'm going to make per month on that property. And then I divide that by the amount of units the building has. That's my per door profit. So that's how you would calculate that.
Thank you, Alex.
You're getting $2 to $250 per door per unit is what that breaks down to.
Yeah, like that. I mean, and obviously if you're putting down more money, like Freddie's getting, $500 to $700 per door, but he's also just said like he's got, really good like equity positions on it. So obviously the less debt you have on it,
Right.
if you put down 50% instead of 20%, you're going to have a higher per door profit.
Mm-hmm. So
And,
what
so,
we'll do is
hey-
when Greg sends out the email to everybody, we'll add in, if you go to Bigger Pockets, you can easily find a calculator, a spreadsheet to plug all of these numbers in. We'll include that. But it's just as easy to Google something like that.
I can give you guys just a little aha moment that I realized this past property purchase that I made. In Hudson County, we're liable for some of the costs that happens in the property, including water and sewer and sometimes even heating costs, unless those heating costs are separated. When I purchased my last property, in South Jersey, they happened to be two properties on one lot. And it was an investment property, and the gentleman that had it had renovated it, kicked out the tenants, and felt like he wasn't getting enough income and was selling it. I found out that one of the units he was getting $1,000, and the second unit he was getting $12,000. I researched to see what the rental properties would go for in the area. It was 1 block away from the beach, so I knew I was going to have to pay for flood insurance, but it's still 1 block away from the beach. I walked the property, and I automatically knew that the rents were not comparable to what it should be. So I purchased the property at around, I think it was $290. I usually do some value add to the property. My value add to this was adding a washer and a dryer to both units. The good thing is that, guess what? They're separate units, and I don't pay for the water. The tenants pay for the water. The tenants pay for the sewer. And currently, one unit is bringing in $1,500, and the second unit is bringing $1,900, and my debt service is $1,700. It's a win-win situation. And I'm thinking, why am I buying in Hudson County? I should keep buying down south, because you just do nothing and it's just easier, right? Like there's just more income at the end of the month without having to redo kitchens or do anything like that. I spent, I think, $3,000 in appliances and rented it within the first 30 days.
It's a very good point, Freddie, because I just got a $790 water and sewer bill in New Brunswick for one of my properties. So,
oh yeah. It's the water bill is under the tenant's name, and I bill back the sewer.
Love it. Tasso asked in the chat, Greg, when you hire a realtor to represent you as an off-market purchase,
so he is allowed 2 walkthroughs pre-settlement.
Oh, Cass.
Okay.
Girlfriend.
Mute. Tasso asked, when you hire a realtor to represent you off-market purchase, what is the full commission you would offer them to represent you? Tasso, it really depends on the deal, right? I mean, I see a full commission as I would pay somebody at least 5% if it's a great deal. If it's like a crazy screaming deal or it's a commercial, I don't care. Like if it's a full 6 or 7, I don't care if it's an awesome deal. So, I mean, at a minimum, I would say 5%. So,
and what you're also saying is you're not going to give them a referral fee for it or get a referral fee for it. You're going to give them the full.
Yeah. If somebody can find off-market deals in this market that we're in, I'll pay out commissions all day long because they're so hard to come by.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, anything else? Questions, comments, insights, ahas, because we're running up against the hour. And I know people have to
I have a quick question about the eviction moratorium.
Yes.
So once that's lifted, and let's say you have your tenants that owe you several months rent and you have no choice but to evict them, do you ever recoup that money, or they just get booted and that's a bad debt for you?
It depends on the, what's the best way to say this? It depends on, I want to be careful
how much time you want to spend on it. It's a pain in the butt. You can take them to small claims court and try and garnish their wages, but you have to hire an attorney. We looked into it because we've had somebody in this boat. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Like, do you want to focus your energy on that, or do you want to just move on? I think for us, it wasn't a huge loss.
Yeah, I'll share with you guys one thing that I've done. I've luckily, knock on wood, I think I've only had to go to eviction court 2 or 3 times in 10 years. What I did, because in New Jersey, or at least this was in Middlesex County, and this is their procedure, they mandate mediation. Okay, so before you go in front of the judge, you have to sit with a mediator. Okay, so let's say, for example, if I came into court and I knew I want this person out, I don't care what they say, right? But if they owe me $4,000 or $5,000 and we go into mediation and it's an arbitrator and they say, okay, what if they can give you $2,000 now and then they're going to give you another $1,000 for the next 2 weeks, right? I'm going to agree to that all day long because at least I get my 2,000. And the way it works in New Jersey, and I'm not an attorney, but the way it works in New Jersey is if they default on that agreement, it's an automatic judgment for possession. You just have to go back in and file the judgment for possession. So it could be a loss. It just depends on, the way that you operate your business. And like Amy said, you can put a lien on somebody, you can garnish wages if they're working on the books. But the chances of getting that money are probably slimmer to none, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Thank
Cool.
you, guys.
And you know what? One more thing might be, if you have a tenant that really you would like them to move on, I mean, you might even want to offer them $1,500 to get out, so you stop the bleeding. And then you get an attorney to draft an agreement that everybody's no longer obligated to anybody, and you move on. So, all right, guys, we are up against the clock here, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Please join us next month. Amy, what's our date? The 19th?
March 19th at 11 a.m.
Okay, 19th at 11 a.m. Final thought here, or final statement. Go out and shop some property. Go out and make a list. Go out and make it happen. So everybody have a great Friday and an awesome weekend.
Bye,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.